I've always been a professional goal setter, meaning that almost every year I had like 10, 15 goals that I would set, and honestly, most of the time just forget about it. The strategy that I had for setting goals has always been go to a bar with a friend, get drunk, and ask for a paper from a bartender and be like, you know what, let's come up with something creative and write 10 goals for the next year. This would be like around Christmas time. While very enlightening because you never know what your inebriated brain can come up with as a goal, and it's fun to look back at. I still have all these papers, but at the same time, they are never really the goals that I then follow up on, that I track, that I try to achieve. My mentality in setting goals like that was if I set 10 goals, then maybe even just by sheer luck, I might get at least 1 or 2 done in the span of the year. There has been years when that happened, and there has been years when none of the 10 were done. The plan for this year, however, is to go from a professional goal setter to a professional goal achiever. And for that, I need to learn how to set better goals. And I really wanted to record this video, but if I'm completely honest, that's my second attempt to do this because I completely hated the first time I did this because all I did was regurgitate the same ideas that everybody is talking about, everybody's posting about, the SMART goals, the WHOOP method. But at the same time, I was not happy with the result because I was saying all these things that people say work while feeling like a complete fraud because I know they don't work for me. So let's start at the beginning. What is SMART goals and why they may not work for you? They didn't for me. Everybody knows it. It's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It sounds like it's a great idea because you need to know what you're trying to achieve. You need to know when you're going to achieve it. And also, you shouldn't set a goal that is impossible to achieve, right? So it should be achievable. And everything sounds really good in theory, but interesting fact that you may not know, SMART goals were designed in the 1980s for middle managers for tracking quarterly projects. And honestly, they're great for that. For that, you need to be specific, you need to measure, you need to know that your team is doing exactly what they need to do. But that doesn't really work for the goals that need to drive you and that you need to put a lot of your energy in, because for you to stay motivated and consistent on something for even a month, let alone a year, you need something that really drives you. And the part that I always struggled with the most in the SMART goals, it felt so boring. There's actually a scientific reason why it's boring for me and it's boring for all of your brains to set something that is so achievable. There is no emotional charge. There is no dopamine response. There is no drive. When you think about something that doesn't make you excited and a little bit scared, that's not a goal, that's just a to-do task. And I had a brilliant beyond brilliant idea that I need to rethink completely how the goals are set. I need to come up with my own framework if none of the ones which are on the market work for me. So SMART goals are great for structure, but I have something that is great for motivation. Instead of setting goals the wrong way, let's set it the right way. And as you may have guessed, the name of the framework is RIGHT. And it's not just me pulling this out of thin air, it is based on neuroscience and your brain chemistry. So let's get into it. So what does RIGHT stand for? Relentless, indexed, God mode, highlights, and teamed. So relentless. This is about this goal feeling non-negotiable. The research on loss aversion shows that humans are roughly twice as motivated to put an effort into not losing something compared to gaining something. Instead of having a goal that feels like, yeah, I need to do this and that, you need to imagine not achieving your goal. Imagine that whatever you think your goal is, you haven't achieved that. And feel that gut-wrenching feeling of not succeeding. This is going to be your drive. You are not thinking about how good you will feel when you achieve it. You're going to be thinking about how devastating it'll be if you don't. Instead of framing your goal, for example, as I want to build a successful business, you frame it as, if I don't build my successful business, I lose my potential. I will never achieve the version of myself that I know I can be. And when that failure is that scary, your nervous system activates completely differently. You don't hope to achieve the goal. You simply have to. Obviously, I'm not advocating living in fear every day of your life, but when setting goals, maybe you will realize that it's not the goal for you. So for example, if I say, I want to run a marathon, I want to be just like everybody, and I think I want this, but then I imagine what will happen? How will I feel when I don't achieve this, when I don't run marathon? Nothing really moves me, nothing really scares me. It doesn't feel like, oh my God, I have to do this. Is it really the goal that you want to invest your time in? I've run 2 half marathons, and the first one, my motivation was, I announced this to everyone, and so many people told me that I couldn't do this, that my motivation was pure driven by, I'm gonna prove you wrong. So for me, I was imagining what will happen if I don't finish this half marathon is all those bitches will be right, and I cannot afford that. The second pillar is indexed. This is something similar to what SMART has, and that's the best part of that framework, and that is you need to know how to measure the success. However, indexed is slightly different. So what I'm suggesting is indexing your progress. So you create kind of like a dashboard wherever you have a weekly ritual where you score, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10 or in percentage or however you like to score your things. Done or not done is also acceptable, but maybe not the best. And you track weekly. And the reason why that works better than just having a measurable goal at the end, your dopamine circuits will fire whenever your brain detects progress. And that is going to be every week. Every week you will see you are progressing, your scores are improving, or maybe you're realizing that something isn't working, and then you can reassess and reestablish what is it that you need to do for those goals. So these are your touch points, these are your check and reassess points, and you have every week a little bit of dopamine hitting your brain telling you, okay, that feels good, let's keep going. The third one, God mode. That's probably my favorite part of this whole thing, and that is the opposite of A in SMART, which is achievable. You need to set goals which are God mode, which are like 80% impossible. They feel so good that it's scary. Obviously, you should be mindful of the actual limitations of your body and your mind. You shouldn't set up goals which are completely impossible. I'm not going to set a goal that I want to look exactly like Angelina Jolie, just simply because that's not possible. I cannot change my appearance to be an exact clone of Angelina Jolie, even if I think that she's the most beautiful woman alive. However, I can set the goal to star in a movie which is going to be rated as high as Angelina Jolie's movies, for example. When you set a goal that's actually scary, you're triggering your amygdala. You are terrified of that goal. However, that is what's going to drive you, because that part is much more primal and instinctual, and it will activate parts of your brain to work on it harder than if that's a goal that's just honestly mundane and boring. Another perk of setting up a goal that's a little bit scary and a little bit out there, and remember, it should feel like 80% impossible, is your brain will adapt into accepting this as your new normal. It will trigger the neuroplasticity to rewire your brain into thinking, okay, that means that this is our new possible, let's go. So instead of setting the goals like, I'll start that project, set the goal, I'm going to come up with a solution that's going to completely change how people view the problem. God mode goals activate the part of your brain that's capable of real transformation. H for highlights. Now that's where we get practical. Obviously, big scary goals, while good for a drive, they do feel a little bit uncertain for the brain because it's unclear what are the actions, what are the next step for this big scary goal. So think of it kind of like a video game. You're not trying to beat the entire game at once, you have the checkpoints. Each one will be a win, each one will release dopamine, and each one will be indexed and tracked weekly. And the key for this is you focus on one highlight per week. Try not to overwhelm yourself, try not to go too hard, and I know I said that you need to do something that's scary, but you need to do it in the right way. And slowly, week by week, you will be getting closer and closer to your God mode goal by hitting these highlights every week. And finally, we're at the fifth pillar, teamed. That's probably the most powerful one, and that's what SMART goals are completely missing. Teamed obviously stands for a team that you need to create, find a accountability partner, or a team or a buddy, however you want to call that. It's key to not just write down your goals, but also announce the goals to someone and do it with someone else. Do the check-ins with someone else. I personally know that it works because I have that group for exercise where we all kind of got together thinking, oh, we want to exercise more. And every week we say what we did, what we didn't do, and we have the punishments afterwards if you didn't hit your goal. I'm not sure if punishment is actually based on any research, but that's how we do it. But there is definitely research showing that accountability or even simply writing down your goals and having a regular check-ins with yourself, but even better so with an accountability partner, improves the rate of goals achieving by like 50% or something like this. And now I'll do something very scary for me, and I'll explain my right goal for next year, which will be creating a soft science club, which I've kind of begun by starting the social media for it, the YouTube channel for it. I have the Instagram, TikTok, follow me there if you want to. And it kind of started with the idea of what do I want to do that motivates me, that drives me, that makes me feel like I have to do this. Remember, Relentless? And that for me was working on something that has some neuroscience background, that explains how psychology works based on that neuroscience. And I had the idea of how cool would it be if there was an exclusive club for the science girlies. You don't have to be literally a girl to be a girly, who have the same goal of just staying curious, learning a little bit more about our brains. And honestly, thinking if I don't do that made me so upset, because I was like, finally came up with an idea that motivates me and drives me. And if I don't do this, I'll regret this for the rest of my life. And so this was the very first stone for me to start the relentless journey towards the Soft Science Club. How I'm going to track this is going to be when I write this down. Every week I'll have a rating of what I have done towards that goal so far, and what I rate my progress, and if I need to reassess and change maybe my approach or the time I'm investing, or maybe I need to rethink the milestones completely. Obviously, God mode, it does feel 80% impossible for me to be able to create a huge club. When I came up with this framework, it was on Christmas Eve, and I was thinking that could be the beginning of a new journey when I write a book, or I have my education program or something. That felt just so grand and scary and exciting, that this is how God mod goals should feel. You should be jittering. You should be like, oh my God, I cannot wait until this is true. And the anticipation of this and your work, slow and consistent work towards that God mod goal, will rewire your brain into knowing that this is possible, because you will achieve this. And then H for highlights will be me working on Instagram, me working on TikTok, me working on my website, me working on my affirmation cards that I'm about to launch, me working on this YouTube channel, me getting a psychology degree, then potentially in the future me getting a coaching degree, then maybe at some point I'll get into neuroscience. So I'll split it out into the chunks, how I see this God mod goal decomposes into, and then I'll try to reduce each chunk into a weekly task. T for teamed. Honestly, here I'm kind of counting on you guys to be my accountability partners. So please drop a comment and let's connect. And here it is, the right framework for setting your goals the right way, which is completely based on neuroscience. I haven't made up any of the pillars. They're all science backed. If you're curious, look into the description of the video. I'll link all the links and you can read up on this as well. But most importantly, I wish you a happy new year and a productive new year. Very excited to see which goals you set for yourself for next year.